Today I'm going to be talking about following your gut and how sometimes following your gut can be the worst thing you can do. Hi everyone. In today's video we're going to be talking about the notion of following your gut or following your instincts and what they're telling you to do, and how sometimes that can be a really big problem and something that can perpetuate things like anxiety and depression. But before I get into that, just a couple of disclaimers to go over. I'm a registered psychologist in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and this video is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute or replacement for advice from your doctor or mental health professional. Now, with those things out of the way, let's start talking about following your gut, which is a very kind of romantic notion. There's a very kind of Disney princess type of feel to the idea that we have this intuition, we have this gut feel that tells us what we should be doing and how we should behave. And for the most part, I just want to be clear about this, for the most part, I think that's fine. I'm not saying you should never follow your gut, you should never trust your instincts. But if you're experiencing things like anxiety or depression, following your gut is one of the biggest pitfalls and traps that you can fall into. The way I like to think about anxiety and depression is they're kind of like greedy conditions. And what I mean by that is that they want you to act and behave in ways that perpetuate the anxiety or the depression. So it's almost like you have this little depression gremlin or this anxiety gremlin sitting on your shoulder. And the gremlin is telling you ways to think and ways to behave that actually fuel and perpetuate the gremlin and keep the gremlin alive. And so as long as you're doing what the gremlin's telling you to do, you're going to feel more anxious, you're going to feel more depressed. And often the way this happens is through this sense of I do what I feel like. I'm doing what I feel motivated to do, or what my gut instinct is telling me to do. So let's imagine someone who's experiencing depression. So you got this depression gremlin on your shoulder. So think about what you feel like doing, what your gut tells you to do when you're experiencing depression. Well, your gut may tell you, don't bother returning that phone call from your friends. There's no point. You're not really going to enjoy talking to them anyway. Your gut's going to tell you, you know what? No point in going out for that run today. Don't bother getting out of bed. You know what? You're not feeling very hungry, so why bother eating? You know what? You don't really enjoy going, skiing anymore. So, what's the point in even bothering? So, you see, the idea is the depression's going to tell you all the things you ought not to do if you wanted to feel better. So by following your gut, by doing what the depression gremlin is telling you to do, you're suddenly no longer engaging in all of these behaviors or activities that might actually make you feel better. So when you're feeling depressed, is your gut telling you to go for a run? No, it's telling you to stay home and not bother doing anything. Well, what do you think that does to the depression? Makes the depression worse. If you're feeling depressed, is the depression, do you really feel like going out and socializing with friends? Well, no, your gut doesn't really feel like you want to go out and socialize with friends. So you don't. So you stay at home and you're isolated and you're alone. What does that do to the depression? Makes the depression worse. And so this depression gremlin gets you to feel like it's your gut instinct to not do these things. And so what you end up doing is you end up following what you feel like doing which isn't very much, and that just contributes to making the depression worse. Now let's talk about the anxiety gremlin. So if you're anxious about something, say you're anxious about public speaking or talking to a group of people, what's the anxiety going to get you to do? It's going to get you to avoid any of those types of situations. So if I'm anxious about speaking in public, my gut is going to tell me, you know what, just kind of avoid any of those situations. Avoid taking any classes where there are public presentations. Avoid speaking up in the meeting. Well, what do you think that's going to do to my anxiety about these types of situations? Well, if I'm always avoiding sharing my opinion in a meeting, well, that's going to maintain my anxiety about speaking up publicly. And it also prevents me from really seeing what will happen. So how do I know I'm not very good at public speaking? How will I know that public speaking situations will turn out badly if I never put myself in those situations? And so by following my gut, by following what the anxiety is telling me to do, I'm avoiding these situations and I'm reinforcing these beliefs and thoughts that I'm not very good at it and that it would go really badly if I tried. And so what does this do to the anxiety? It makes the anxiety worse. So by following your gut in these situations, by following your gut with depression or anxiety, what you're really doing is falling into the trap that depression and anxiety is setting for you. What they want you to do is all the things that are going to keep the depression and the anxiety going. They're going to fuel the depression and the anxiety cycles. So you might raise the question, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, how am I supposed to use this information? Well, the idea, that one thing I'll often tell my clients to do is to think about whatever it is that your anxiety is telling you to do, to think about whatever it is the depression is telling you to do, what you feel like doing in those situations, and then do the opposite. Right? So if my anxiety is telling me, don't bother returning that phone call to that friend because they're going to be upset with you, what I should do then is return the phone call to the friend and see what happens. If my depression is telling me, don't bother going for that walk, well, then what I should do is make sure I put some effort into trying to make it out for that walk, even if it's just a short walk today. So it's something we call opposite action. So taking whatever it is that you feel like doing in these states and doing the opposite. Because recognizing that the depression and anxiety is going to get you to behave in ways that makes the depression and anxiety worse. And so if I'm doing the opposite of those things, then I'm probably working at chipping away or undermining those depression and anxiety gremlins that are sitting on my shoulder. So if you're ever stuck and don't know what to do to feel better from depression or to help overcome your anxiety, one common sort of simple strategy is to take whatever your gut is telling you to do and do the opposite. There was years ago a great episode of the show Seinfeld where the character George one day realizes that he's always followed his instincts and it's always led to failure in his life. And so what he ends up doing is doing the exact opposite of every one of his instincts. And what ends up happening is he becomes extremely successful. It's a very funny episode, and it actually highlights this notion of opposite action and the pitfall that happens when you follow your gut. So I hope you find that information helpful, I would love to hear your thoughts and comments about this. So please leave me some comments in the comments section down below. If you're enjoying my videos and would like to see more, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll be alerted every week when I post a new video. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.